got some trade rumors to discuss here on Mavericks Today. Harrison Graham and Jeffrey Cooperstein. Hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. Brian Windhorst reporting on Julius Randle, saying it's extraordinarily possible that he could get traded.
What a weird word to use, by the way, if you're Windhorst.
Extraordinarily.
Why? What makes it extraordinary?
Yeah.
Just use a different word. I have a love-hate relationship with Windy. But it is interesting that Randle is once again the subject of trade rumors, and whenever Randle is the subject of trade rumors, the Mavs are always linked to him. So let's kind of just dive in again on what it would take, and whether the Mavs should even be interested in him or not.
Yeah, you look at his remaining contract here. It's basically 2 for $60. I mean, that's basically left.
He will
on
opt
his
out,
deal. Probably will opt out unless he has a disastrous year coming up in 24-25. But I liked Julius for a while, Coop. I was interested in him like 4 or 5, like before he went to the Knicks.
Agreed.
I thought he could be like a really good like number 3 on a contender, and I think he could still be that. I just don't think his ego will let him. Like I think he thinks he's a 1 or a 2 on a high-level team, and I think for like a title team, he's really more of a 3 or a 4. There's no doubt he's a good player, especially in the regular season, but in the playoffs, Coop, this guy just falls off a cliff. Now, last year he didn't play in the postseason, but I mean, look at the splits, man. It's just been. It's not like he's had a bad series here and there. He basically has been a negative player in the postseason.
He doesn't show enough. He has not shown enough in the playoffs for me to be like hell-bent on getting him to Dallas. He is a very good regular season player, but it's all about the playoffs at this point, and Randle has not shown that he can do it on a consistent basis in the postseason. I do think he would he make the Mavs a better team in the regular season? Yes. Does he get them any closer to being a true title contender or an NBA champion? I don't think so.
I mean, the way I ask it is, would you rather have P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford or Julius Randle?
Yeah.
I'll take Washington and Gafford. That's kind of how I view it.
I agree, and we'll talk about what a framework would look like here in a few, but when you look at this roster, like, where exactly does he fit? I think I want Washington at the 4 over Randle. I know I want Derek Lively at the 5 over Randle, so I'm not sure. It would be crazy to trade for a guy that doesn't even really fit in your rotation.
I mean, look, you'd have more offensive firepower with Luka, Kyrie, Clay, and Randle, but your defense which is already going to have some questions with Clay starting next to Luka and Kyrie, would just be a disaster. Like, P.J. Washington is going to probably be a defensive first guy on this team. Like, he really is, and he showed last year he can be that. I mean, is Randle going to accept being or try to mold into a defensive kind of shutdown guy and take a lesser role offensively?
Hasn't shown the willingness to do so yet.
We haven't seen that be the case. So I just don't think he fits. I think if he gets traded, and I do agree with Wendy that him getting traded is possible, and quite frankly makes a lot of sense. I think the Knicks proved last year they don't really need him if their other key guys are healthy around Jalen Brunson. I think he's a better fit for like a young team trying to make the playoffs because he can help in that regard.
Yeah.
He can elevate a 10 seed type of team to like the 7 seed or something like that. But the Mavs already made the finals with this core, added Klay Thompson to it, got a couple other pieces in the fold. Like, they need good role players to help elevate the team. They don't need a guy who thinks he's a perennial all-pro when really for a title team he would need to be a 3 or a 4.
They got a guy in Klay Thompson who was willing to make that sacrifice and define his role as a role player, so to speak. He's going to be an elite role player, and he showed the willingness to take that on. I'm not sure Randle would do the same.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens in this regard. But we want to hear from you guys. Would you trade for Julius Randle? Type T for trade or P for pass. I think it's pretty clear where we stand, but what say you? Let us know in the comments below. And coming up after this word from our sponsor, we will discuss the framework of a trade, hypothetically, if it were to happen. But first, Coop, PrizePicks is back here at Chat Sports, and football is back as well. And if you don't want to wait for basketball season, want to start getting in on the daily fantasy sports action, download the PrizePicks app today. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get an awesome deal that we have right now. And essentially what it is with that code CLNS is you're going to get $50 in bonus cash after you place a $5 entry. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, that bonus is going to hit your account regardless. We got a little Week 1 3-player entry here. More on Dak Prescott's passing yards, CeeDee Lamb's receiving yards, and less on Baker Mayfield's passing yards. 10 to win 50 here, or 5 to win 25. And again, even if you miss, you're still going to get that $50 bonus play. Going to give you a little extra buffer to have some extra to play with early on in the season. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Code CLNS is the code to get advantage of that deal. Also, a little tidbit too. Throughout the month of September, Caleb Williams' passing yards more or less than half a yard. So if you do a 2-player entry, you're already halfway home.
There you
Because
go.
he's going to throw for at least a yard every game unless he gets hurt on the first play of the game. So PrizePicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS. 2 to 6-player entries, of course. Other sports available as well. All right, Coop, what does a trade look like if, hypothetically, the Mavericks were to get in on the Julius Randle sweepstakes?
Yeah, you kind of alluded to it earlier. It would be a Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington plus probably draft compensation swap in exchange for Julius Randle. Now, both teams are very limited in the trades they can make, considering they're right up against that first apron, which means you are limited basically in the assets that you can give. Otherwise, you're going to trigger the hard cap, and there's a bunch of salary cap gymnastics you would have to go through. So this would be the kind of framework where Gafford and Washington's salary matches Julius Randle, and I would assume you'd have to give up a pick or something of the sort. And if I'm the Mavs, why would I be doing this? Why would I sacrifice my depth and the heart and soul of my team who got me to the finals last year for a guy that you don't know if he will perform when the going gets tough and when you need him most?
I think the Mavs are at a point, Coop, where if you're trading good role players, it needs to be for like a proven postseason
A superstar.
player. A guy who is proven to have success in the postseason, or like a guy who's like 23 and clearly coming up as a top player in this league. Otherwise, I think the moves you're going to be making are going to be to enhance the depth, to enhance what Luka and Kyrie bring to the table, which is why they got a guy like Klay Thompson. They feel like his shooting ability helps you do that. Quentin Grimes as well. I just, like, if you're going to swing big for a big contract, like, it's got to be a player you can trust more than Julius Randle. It's not, again, Randle's a nice player, but this team's already a playoff team.
Exactly.
Who helps you elevate in the postseason? We've seen multiple years in playoff series with Julius where not only has he not played up to his regular season standard, it's not even close.
No,
like his numbers in play plummet in the playoffs.
He becomes a different guy in the postseason. I don't know what it is, whether it's just the pressure, it's the time of year and his body's worn down, or what it is. And I know us fans as well, we always like to overrate our role players and stuff, but I really do believe that if the Mavs aren't getting someone, I'm going to throw a name out there that's never going to happen in a million years, but if they're not getting someone like a Kevin Durant or like an elite established veteran who you know has performed in the postseason, I'm not giving those guys up, man, especially P.J. Washington, who is the absolute heart and soul of that starting lineup, basically, and he's the one who's the defensive anchor out there and is going to make things happen from a physical and an emotional standpoint. So I'm not trading those guys for Randle. It would have to be a much bigger, more established player.
You're trading two starters for one. I know Gafford may not start, but him and Lively are going to split minutes.
Exactly.
Like, I'm just – and again, I've said this for a couple months now. I don't want to split up this center pairing right now.
Nope.
Like, you've been starving for good center play for years, and you have a really good 1-2 punch. Why would you split that up in less than a full calendar year? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Now, could that change, like, on Gafford's last year of his contract and you don't think you're going to be able to retain him? Sure, he could become a facilitator in a trade at that point. But right now, I don't think it makes sense, because if you trade Gafford and something happens to Lively, you're stuck in the Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleba thing again.
Which you do not want. Yeah,
No.
there's no reason to upset the apple cart right now. Now, if something is going to happen around the deadline, that's a different story. But as of right now, the Mavs are going into the season with what they got.
Yeah, I completely agree. Would you guys make this trade basically a Randle for Gafford and Washington swap, maybe some kind of, maybe it's multiple twos or a 1 and get a 2 back or something like that? A for accept, D for decline. Coop and I are pretty clear we would not make that move. All right, Coop, that'll do it for Mavericks Today. Real basketball next month.
Yes, Media Day on September 30th, and the Mavs fly out to Vegas on October 1st. We are inching closer and closer Be sure to hit that subscribe button. We'll have you guys up to date with all of the latest Mavericks news and rumors leading up to the season.